Okay, making this adapter to take the four-wheel drive T90 transmission to a rear-wheel drive. I've got the output from the transfer case here. I've got me a great big old piece of 6-inch quarter-wall pipe and a piece of 3/8 flat. So I've got the gasket for that flange, for the output flange, traced inside, outside of the gasket. I'm going to take the plasma cutter, cut this circle out, cut this piece out here, weld the ring that's left to my big piece of pipe here, and then I'll chuck that into the lathe and machine the rest of this circle out so that it fits nice and tight there. Here I've got the outside flange welded to the tube, and I'm machining this inner ring out to be able to fit the output shaft piece into it. And you can see with the gasket in there, still got a decent little ways to go with it. Alright, got the first piece of the transfer case sort of stand-in done. Got the output shaft housing to where it will bolt to this pipe section here. Then got this other big piece of 3/8 plate that is eventually going to get cut hole. And there's got to be a hole here for where the countershaft poked through the case of the transmission. But this is going to have the front adapter for the transfer case stand-in, and also I'm going to leave bits on either side, and those are going to become the transmission mount. Drivetrain is going to be solid mounted, so I'm just going to have bolts and then make flanges in the chassis to go to there. Got the plate that bolts to the transmission, everything cut out on it so that it bolts up flat. And keep in mind, this is also going to be used to mount the transmission side of everything, so eventually it'll have, you know, bolt holes to flange into the chassis. And at this point, I've also got the housing to hold the output trimmed down to the length that it needs to be, roughly. And now I'm going back through with the lathe and just cutting it down to where it is precisely made. Here I've got the old slider kind of tack welded to the output housing so that it can't move. And now, if I can get this held, I just have to cut the cylinder that I made to fit precisely in this distance. And once that kind of fits precisely in there, there'll be a gasket between the transmission and this plate, and then a gasket between the housing and the piece that I made, and that'll space this off to give me just a little bit of safety clearance in there. Okay, have the cylinder that I'd made just tack welded right now to the plate. I had to make or cut a gap up here, so we'll have to close this gap that was necessary because of the shifter that's on there, even though I'm not going to use that shifter in the end. And then this gap down here where the shift rails actually mount in the transmission, I'll have to close that one up as well, and then finish welding everything all the way around. But this is, in essence, a rear-wheel drive transmission now. Okay, got the piece welded the rest of the way around and got the gaps closed up. There was a gap here to clear the shift rods. And then, can't see the camera. Yeah, gap there that I had to cut out to clear the shifter. So that's all welded up. It should still fit. Probably do a little bit more sanding, especially on the top piece here, to make it look nicer. But other than that, it is now a two-wheel drive transmission.